Hello everyone, and welcome to the 57th, and sadly, final episode of our second Workers and Resources series. As promised, I would like to finish things by making sure the new town is in a good enough shape to accept residents. This will mostly involve us bringing in the necessary goods, making sure everything has power, and sorting out the internal logistics. Which is extra fortunate for us, since I will learn an important lesson about the cable cars that I was unaware of until now. They are incredibly low volume, at least for regular goods. You'll see why. Also, I did not name the last town. There was one name suggested a long time ago, but I forgot to write it down, so I just left it as is. If you decide to download the save file, then you can name it whatever you wish. Who am I to judge? I'm not your real dad. Before we do anything, we still have a little bit of construction work that need doing. So far, only the northeastern part of town is powered, and I would prefer if all of it was. I only used the closest hub for this job. If we used Kirkomov too, then it would take a lot longer, thanks to the distances involved. Next, we need to sort out the fuel. We have a couple buildings with their own fleet of vehicles, so it's best if they have their own supply. This lower distribution office will be responsible for moving the meat up the hill. So, we need refrigerated trucks for this. As for the upper office, it will deliver the other goods to the stores, so it's all covered hull trucks in this one. And we might as well buy the other vehicles, like ambulances, police cars, and even the secret police rides. Since we used blue police cars everywhere else, let's just keep the theme going, and buy a couple different models, all in blue. Obviously, the secret police will get the usual. Next, we need the cable cars. Looking at the stations, it seems we can have a maximum of 14 cars running at any one time. So, let's buy that exact amount. Fortunately for us, we already had a couple flatbed trucks stashed away at the road depots. They've been sitting there for decades, so it's kind of nice that they get some work to do before the end. The thing is, there are no fuel stations anywhere along the way, so to avoid them getting stuck in the middle of nowhere, we better place a couple places where they can refill. No need for anything fancy, a couple free fuel stops will do the trick. Yeah, 3 of them will be plenty enough. Since we have no more need for them, we might as well get rid of the service roads around the city. They serve their purpose quite well, but at this point, they are more of an eyesore. To make all this work, we also need to sort out the railroads, and that means we need some signaling. Come on, the least we can do is make them be in a neat line at least. I really want to get rid of this extra connection before the episode is over, but we still have stuff running on it. Although it won't be used anymore, I still wanted this station to be at least theoretically usable. Right now, all the platforms are strictly one way, and since the other side of the tracks are not connected to the main line, we need to make this into a two-way station somehow. Adding a little lane switch will do the trick. It won't allow access to 2 of the platforms, but 4 would have been plenty enough. And since the path toward the lower warehouse is already signaled, we can start delivering stuff to it. Sadly, this did use up the last remaining assignment slot in the distribution office, so we will need to use the export office to deal with the deliveries from the new farm. But, we now have food, clothes, and electronics on the way to the lower drop-off point. Needless to say, adding a new place to fill up, it does mean we will have a couple empty warehouse notifications in this episode. I sure am glad we are stuck behind a train that has the same speed as this one. I had to record the start of this episode twice thanks to a crash, and the first time, I was behind a track layer. I had a lot of red lights along the way. And we have goods being moved up to the city. We might as well take care of the space allocations in the warehouses. Should have done this earlier, always best to do it in advance, so we don't accidentally deliver anything unnecessary. Wait, the upper warehouse is empty. Oh, right. We need to set the cable car stations to have the proper loading and unloading orders. The stocks in the warehouse is still going up rather slowly. Maybe relying on cable cars alone isn't the best idea. Yeah. The amount of goods taken up per second is incredibly small. There is simply no way these cars could handle the throughput needed to serve the city if it was fully inhabited. I kind of doubt they could do it even if we only populated the existing buildings. Maybe we can get away with only moving clothes and electronics, but for food, we definitely need something more beefy. Since I still wanted to try to only use the distribution office to move stuff internally, and only use the export office for selling stuff, I went through the different buildings in the former, just to see if we can afford to unassign anything. Sadly, we couldn't. Only 2 cable cars are left to be delivered. Since only 2 can be loaded on one of these trucks, we can safely sell 2 of them. They are pretty old at this point, so let's just send them to those famous highways in the sky. And there they are. The last 2 cable cars for the goods deliveries. Since this is the last episode, how about we take a ride? We literally drive from one end of the Republic to the other. We started at those customs houses, and we ended at the new town. Plus we can enjoy our wonderfully smooth mountain roads one last time. Seems smooth, right? Don't worry, it's about to change. Oh yeah, let's shake some kidney stones loose. No need to burden our hospitals with unnecessary ultrasound appointments. Phew, that was something. Should be a bit more calm from here. It won't be perfect, but it also won't be as bad. Places where I started to use that road snapping trick, things are noticeably better. Yeah. These cars have been running for quite a while now, and barely any food made it up to the town level. Even if we take the shop storage into account, that's an unacceptably low amount. I'm afraid we will have to supplement their throughput with some trucks. I suppose they can help us cut down on fuel usage. Better than nothing. And we have a golden opportunity to get rid of that temporary connection now. Nice, we have the cables all done. But the substation is nowhere near complete. Everything's delivered, I wonder what's the holdup. There it is. No place for helicopters to land. We just need some help from Estergrad. I also wanted to make this new farm useful in some way. It's all nice and good that we are making a lot of crops, but they would be more useful if we actually did something with it. First, we need to take care of the signals along the rail branch, of course. Yeah, those signals will do it quite nicely. Since the normal domestic delivery office was already full, and we had no time to build a new one, I just used the export office to deal with this job. And you know what? Instead of only selling it, we can also deliver some of the goods to the clothing industry warehouse. Unfortunately, we cannot ensure that it will only export when we have a massive overproduction, but at this point, I made peace with it. At least it still prioritizes internal deliveries. This is where I made a small mistake. I wanted to expand the number of boxcars in the export office. I gave the job to deliver the wagons to the office to the locomotive we bought just for such occasions. Then I forgot to tell it to switch the drop-off station. In my defense, I recorded a bit late at night. At least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Anyways, the little lane switch at the town station is done, so we can place down the signals. For some reason, this rail segment didn't want to cooperate. It was more than long enough to allow for extra nodes to be placed in it, but the cursor didn't do what I wanted. My first thought was that maybe the footbridge was interfering somehow, but getting rid of it did nothing. Thankfully, placing a node on the neighboring track did allow me to snap the cursor to it, but it was still a bit of a hassle. It was so distracting, that I accidentally placed the signals in the originally intended one-way configuration. Oh well, if we were to use the station, I would have noticed the error anyway. All things considered, I'm pretty happy with this station. I'm sure I will try to replicate it somehow in the next series. I really want to see it in action. Alright, time to let in a couple test subjects. I wanted to set the workplace destinations first, but for some reason that option only becomes visible once people are living in the building. I set these restrictions so all services get at least someone working at all times. If we just left them to go wherever they please, I feared they would leave some of them unstaffed, so setting some strict percentages should help us with this. Let's start with 50 people for now. And good thing I make these test runs before opening the floodgates. I completely forgot about the meat. Okay, this is a bit awkward. The new locomotive was picked up by that wagon delivery train. And this is where I discovered my previous error with said wagons being delivered to the wrong office. I wanted to let this delivery to be completed, thinking that the cars would just be dropped off, and then I can send them to the depot. And seeing the train going into the wrong office made me realize my error. Oops. In normal circumstances, we could just sell the unnecessary cars, and redeliver some new one to the correct office, but to be honest, I was in a hurry to deliver the sausages to the new town. First, we need the refrigerated cars from the customs house. I don't really know if we can treat this as if it was a normal train at this point. If we change the stops, will those wagons be converted to regular cargo cars? Or will they stay as if they were the cargo? I didn't want to waste any time with experimenting with it, so I just let them be delivered to the depot, so we can assemble the proper train. So, this is the usual affair. Pick up some meat at the border, deliver it to the station, and wait for a full unload, basically acting as a storage extension for the freezer building. I didn't expect so many complaints, but, thankfully, it will turn out to be the usual startup gripes. If we let this run long enough, we will end up with the usual 2 complaints, and the rest will slowly fade away. Just to be sure we have the necessary staffing numbers everywhere, I allowed more people in. And the freezer trucks are off. Things are already settling down in that apartment building. Apart from the meat, all other complaints are already going down. There. At this point, we should only see the usual alcohol and spirituality complaints go up. But we are not quite done yet. I would feel better if we had more highly educated people in the city, so the hospital, the police station, and all those kinds of buildings are well taken care of. In fact, we might as well just let everyone in. The complaints are going away, so I think it's pretty safe to do so. So yeah. At this point, the town is perfectly habitable. If we kept bringing in more and more people, pretty soon we would have enough living there to allow us to start shipping them out to surrounding industrial sites. Unfortunately, with the impending release of the new update, I am sad to say, this series is now at an end. Before I go into the after-action debrief monologue, I would like to thank each and every one of you for sticking around. Your support and enthusiasm are what makes it all worth it. And frankly, I couldn't ask for a better community of people. Also, thank you for understanding why it is necessary to start a new season, and given that I made some big mistakes, I am a little bit glad and relieved that I have an excuse to do so. The first and biggest mistake was that I started building in the most isolated and hard to reach corner of the map. This forced my hand at the way we could expand, and ended up having way bigger gaps in our construction coverage than I would consider healthy. So, I don't know what map we will use in the next season, but this is still a contender. There is a huge open area in the southeastern part of the map, so if we did end up using this map again, we could do things differently. But I'm completely open to something new as well. Who knows, maybe starting in that corner would be a big enough change to make it all feel new, and still have the option to tackle the harder parts of the map after we are more established. Please let me know what you think. Use this map again, just start somewhere else, or look for something a bit more fresh. I'm open to ideas. Just keep in mind that whatever we go for, that's what we are stuck with for the duration of the whole season. And given that the game should not get any more major updates until final release, this should be the longest season yet. Might want to think long term on this one. As for mods, I will likely start with completely vanilla, and add in new mods as the need arises. Now that a lot of Rob's buildings are in the roster of vanilla options, we can safely get rid of a lot of our mods, since a majority in the list came from him. Pretty convenient. And I think this is where I will leave it. I did record more than the normal amount of beauty shots this time round. So after my usual goodbye message, the video will keep going for a while longer, just to take one last look at what we managed to accomplish in this season. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you liked the video, then leaving a like and subscribing to the channel just might motivate me to make more. If you are more in the donating mood, you can find a link to my Ko-fi page in the description, where you can buy me a glass of water. I don't really drink coffee. Thank you for your support, and until next time, I will see you later.